Welcome to Chi Twisted Stories. Sit back, relax, and immerse yourself in another gripping tale filled with betrayal, revenge, and second chances. If you enjoy stories packed with unexpected twists and satisfying karma, you're in the right place. Let's begin. The suffocating stench of blood still lingered beneath my nose, as if it had seeped into my very soul. The deafening blast of a truck horn echoed relentlessly in my ears. Every shattered bone, every burst of agony from that fatal collision remained etched into my memory with terrifying clarity. Even death had failed to erase the pain. I remembered everything. The truck charging toward me, the desperate seconds when escape was impossible, and most of all, Jiang Nianru's face. She wasn't frightened. She wasn't heartbroken. Standing safely on the sidewalk, my twin sister watched me with a smile, so twisted it sent chills through my body. The corners of her lips curled upward in pure delight as she silently mouthed words that only I could understand. Just die already. Once you're gone, Song Zihao will finally belong to me. At that moment, I realized something I should have understood long ago. The innocent little sister I had spent my entire life protecting no longer existed. Greed had transformed her into a monster. Perhaps heaven pitied my tragic end. Just as the unbearable pain faded and darkness swallowed my consciousness, a blinding light pierced through the void. Warm summer sunlight poured over my face. The scorching noon heat surrounded me, forcing my tightly shut eyes to flutter open. I blinked repeatedly, struggling to adjust to the dazzling brightness. Sister? Jiang Chuyu, why are you just standing there? A sweet, playful voice interrupted my thoughts. I'm talking to you. I froze. That voice, it couldn't be. I slowly lifted my head. Standing before me was an 18-year-old girl with flawless porcelain skin, sparkling eyes, and a face identical to my own. My twin sister, Jiang Nianru. She smiled brightly, holding a pale pink envelope against her chest. Song Zihao confessed to me today, she said excitedly. He stopped me after class and gave me this love letter. He wants to take me to dinner tonight, then watch a movie together. She leaned closer, her eyes glittering with anticipation. What do you think? Should I say yes? For a long moment, I simply stared at her. This was the face I had trusted more than anyone. The face I had loved unconditionally. The face that had ultimately watched me die with a smile. High beneath her innocent expression, I could already see the ambition burning inside her eyes, the same greed that would one day consume her completely. My heart pounded violently. Then it hit me. I had returned. I had been given another chance. I was back 10 years in the past, back to the very day everything began, the day that divided our destinies forever. In my previous life, I hadn't hesitated for a second. I had grabbed her hand and tried everything to stop her. Song Zihao isn't a good person, I warned. He's famous for changing girlfriends as often as he changes clothes. You're just another challenge to him. Our college entrance exams are only 2 months away. If we study hard, we can both get into Peking University. But dramaaudio education is the only thing that can truly change our lives. Although she had looked unhappy, Jiang Nianru eventually listened to me. She rejected Song Zihao. Soon afterward, he turned his attention to the prettiest girl in the neighboring class. Meanwhile, the two of us buried ourselves in our studies. Months later, we were both accepted into Peking University with outstanding scores. We graduated, found stable careers, built respectable lives. Everything seemed perfect, or so I believed. 10 years later, at our high school reunion, Jiang Nianru met Song Zihao again. By then, everything had changed. He had inherited his family's enormous business empire and become one of the city's wealthiest young CEOs. The girl he eventually married, the class beauty everyone once mocked for poor grades, was now living like royalty. Luxury cars, dazzler clothes, diamond jewelry, a mansion, a life beyond imagination. The moment Jiang Nianru saw her, envy consumed her. She blamed me for everything. If you hadn't stopped me back then, I would have been the one standing beside him. I would have been Mrs. Song. In her twisted mind, I had stolen the life that rightfully belonged to her. Hatred slowly replaced reason. Eventually, she murdered me. She pushed me beneath a speeding truck without the slightest hesitation. Then, pretending to be the grieving sister, she inherited my insurance money and seized everything I had worked so hard to build. Now, standing before her once again, looking into those familiar eyes, I felt nothing but disgust. I clenched my fists until my fingernails dug into my palms. The sharp sting grounded me. No, this time, I would never make the same mistake again. A faint smile slowly spread across my lips. I met her eager gaze and answered calmly, "Why are you asking me? It's your relationship. I'm terrible at romance, but Song Zihao is handsome, wealthy, and everyone says the Song family owns luxury cars worth millions. If he's sincere, wouldn't it be a shame to miss an opportunity like that? After all, not everyone gets a chance to change their life overnight." The moment the words left my mouth, Jiang Nianru's eyes sparkled with excitement. She looked at me as if she couldn't believe what she had just heard. After all, her overly cautious, studious sister had never encouraged anything like this before. She grabbed both of my hands. "Really? You actually think I should date him?" Her smile grew brighter than ever, and I smiled back, because this time, I wasn't saving her. I was simply stepping aside and allowing fate to take its rightful course. The trap she chose Jiang Nianru's eyes lit up like fireworks. For a moment, she simply stared at me, unable to hide the excitement written all over her face. This wasn't the answer she had expected. Normally, I was the sensible older sister, the one who constantly lectured her about studying, responsibility, and staying away from trouble. Yet today, I had practically encouraged her. She squeezed my hands excitedly. "Are you serious?" "I knew it. I was thinking the same thing." She giggled, already imagining the glamorous future unfolding before her. "We study so hard just to earn a decent life someday, right? If I can marry into the Song family now, why waste years struggling through university? I'd be taking the shortcut everyone dreams of." I simply smiled. A shortcut? Perhaps. But shortcuts often led straight to cliffs. Before I could respond, the bedroom door swung open. Our mother, Chen Mai Feng walked in carrying a plate of freshly sliced fruit. She caught only the last few sentences. But that was enough. Her eyes widened instantly. "What did you just say?" "Young Master Song likes you, Nianru?" She hurried toward us, nearly dropping the plate onto the table. "Oh my goodness, this is a blessing from our ancestors." She grabbed Jiang Nianru's shoulders, her face glowing with excitement. "What are you waiting for? Say yes immediately." She turned toward me, her expression changing in an instant. the warmth disappeared, replaced by the familiar look of annoyance she always reserved for me. "University?" she scoffed. "So what if you graduate from a prestigious school? You'll spend your entire life working yourself to death for a salary that isn't even enough to buy one of the Song family's car tires." She pointed proudly at Jiang Nianru. "A beautiful woman like my daughter was born to become the wife of a wealthy man. Not like someone who wastes her youth burying her head in books." Her sharp gaze landed on me. The contempt was unmistakable. Nothing had changed, even after living 2 lifetimes. She still favored Jiang Nianru exactly as before. In her eyes, my sister was lively, charming, and sweet-talking. I, on the other hand, was quiet. I studied. I cleaned the house. I never complained. Ironically, those qualities made me the disappointing daughter, the useless one. Memories from my previous life flooded back. I remembered lying in the intensive care unit after the accident. My body was barely clinging to life. Instead of crying beside my hospital bed, my mother repeatedly asked the doctor only one question. "How much longer will she live? I need to prepare the inheritance paperwork." Not once did she ask whether I was in pain. Not once did she hope I would survive. To her, I had already become an obstacle, a dying daughter whose assets would soon belong to her favorite child. Back then, those memories had broken my heart. Now, they no longer hurt. They only made me laugh at how blind she truly was. I lowered my head, hiding the icy smile forming on my lips. "Mom is right," I said quietly. "Nianru is beautiful. She deserves a luxurious life. I'm only good at studying. I'll probably spend my life working for someone else. But if Nianru marries into the Song family, our whole family will benefit." Those words delighted my mother. Her face bloomed with satisfaction. "See? Even your sister understands." Without another second of hesitation, Jiang Nianru pulled out her phone. Her fingers danced across the screen. A smile spread across her face. She had accepted Song Zihao's invitation. That evening, she transformed herself completely. She wore a brand new designer dress our mother had bought specifically for occasions like this. Her makeup was flawless. Her hair fell in elegant waves over her shoulders. She looked every bit like a princess, preparing for her first royal ball. Outside our modest home, the roar of a sports car echoed through the neighborhood. Song Zihao had arrived. The sleek luxury vehicle instantly attracted curious neighbors, who peeked through their windows in envy. Jiang Nianru stepped outside proudly. She glanced back once, flashing me a victorious smile before climbing into the passenger seat. The car disappeared down the street with a thunderous growl. My mother stood at the doorway, watching until the taillights vanished into the night. She couldn't stop smiling. "I wonder how much the bride price will be," she murmured to herself. Then she turned toward me. The smile disappeared immediately. "What are you staring at? Go study. If you fail your exams, don't expect me to support you forever. Learn something from your sister. She's about to become the lady of a wealthy family." I said nothing. Quickly, I returned to my desk. Stackers of textbooks surrounded me. I opened my mathematics workbook and continued solving practice problems. But inside, I couldn't stop smiling. Not because I envied Jiang Nianru, quite the opposite, because I knew a secret neither of them could possibly imagine. Song Zihao wasn't Prince Charming. Behind the handsome face and luxurious lifestyle hid a cruel, violent monster. In my previous life, the woman he eventually married had seemed to live a fairy tale existence. Designer handbags, luxury vacations, jewelry worth millions. Everyone envied her. No one knew what happened behind closed doors. She was beaten, humiliated, forced to entertain his business associates, covered in bruises from head to toe. Every morning, she layered thick foundation over purple marks on her skin before smiling for the cameras. She lived in a golden cage, a beautiful prisoner. This lifetime, that honor belonged entirely to my dear little sister. I wasn't going to stop her. I wasn't going to warn her. Some lessons people insisted on learning the hard way, and Jiang Nianru had already made her choice. Over the next few weeks, Jiang Nianru became completely absorbed in her new romance. Every morning, a different luxury car would stop outside our house. Sometimes it was a bright red Ferrari. Other times, a sleek black Bentley or a silver Porsche. The neighbors gathered outside just to watch. Their whispers floated through the air like smoke. The Song family's young master really has fallen for her. What a lucky girl. Looks like she'll never have to work a day in her life. My mother soaked up every compliment with obvious pride. Whenever someone praised Jiang Nianru, she would smile so broadly that the wrinkles around her eyes nearly disappeared. My daughter has always been destined for greatness. I've said it since she was little. She's too beautiful to live an ordinary life. Each boast was accompanied by a pointed glance in my direction. Unlike my sister, I spent every spare moment at my desk. My world revolved around textbooks, practice exams, and endless stacks of handwritten notes. The National College Entrance Examination was only 2 months away. Every minute mattered. I refused to let my second chance slip through my fingers. Meanwhile, Jiang Nianru slowly drifted farther away from school. At first, she skipped an afternoon class, then an entire day. Soon, disappearing for several days at a time became normal. Instead of attending lectures, she traveled with Song Zihao, luxury hotels, fine dining, private clubs, weekend vacations. Her social media was filled with glamorous photos of expensive meals, designer shopping bags, and bouquets of imported roses. She looked like she was living inside a romance novel. Her classmates couldn't hide their envy. I wish I had a boyfriend like that. She already won at life. Who needs college when you can marry into a billionaire family? Even some teachers began to worry. Her grades, once comfortably within the top 10 of our class, plummeted almost overnight. Assignments were left unfinished. Exams went unanswered. Eventually, she ranked near the bottom of the class. Our homeroom teacher called home repeatedly. Each conversation ended the same way. My mother dismissed every concern. What do teachers know about success? My daughter is going to marry into the Song family. She'll be living overseas before long. Why should she care about a few meaningless test scores? One afternoon, I watched my mother personally write a leave of absence letter for Jiang Nianru. The excuse changed every time: migraine, stomachache, family emergency. A distant relative's funeral, anything to cover up another date with Song Zihao, while everyone around me chased fantasies. I chased certainty. Every day after school, I remained in the library until closing time. The quiet rustling of turning pages became the soundtrack of my life. The world outside no longer mattered. Only my future did. I entered citywide academic competitions, won first place, earned recommendations from several prestigious teachers. Eventually, I qualified for a scholarship interview with Peking University. I completed every application in secret. No one at home knew. I couldn't allow them to interfere. In my previous life, every achievement of mine had somehow become Jiang Nianru's opportunity. If I earned a scholarship, they demanded I share the money. If I received praise, they insisted I help my sister instead. This time, everything belonged to me. One rainy evening, I was solving calculus problems when the front door slammed open with enough force to shake the house. Jiang Nianru stormed inside. Her designer handbag flew onto the sofa. She kicked off her high heels violently. Her expression was darker than I had ever seen. Without saying a word, she collapsed into a chair. Only then did I notice several reddish-purple marks along the side of her neck. They could have been love bites or something far worse. She caught me looking. "What are you staring at?" Her voice was sharp enough to cut glass. "Are you happy seeing me like this, you bookworm?" I calmly lowered my pen. I wasn't staring. I was just wondering, did your date go well? Did young Master Song treat you nicely? The moment I mentioned his name, her anger softened slightly. She crossed her arms and looked away. "He's been acting strange lately. He loses his temper so easily. And every time he drinks, he starts yelling." She hesitated before continuing. "Today, I wanted a limited edition handbag. He refused to buy it. He said his father has started monitoring all of his spending." Her frustration was obvious. I, however, nearly smiled. It had begun. Exactly as I remembered. The Song family's financial empire wasn't nearly as stable as everyone believed. Behind the scenes, several disastrous investments had pushed them into serious financial trouble. Song Zihao's luxurious lifestyle was nothing more than an expensive performance. In my previous life, this secret wasn't exposed until much later. Apparently, history was moving faster this time. I leaned back thoughtfully before speaking. "It's probably temporary. Businesses go through difficult periods. You should try to understand him. A man under pressure needs support. If you're always demanding expensive gifts, he might get tired of you and find someone else." Those final words struck exactly where I intended. Her expression changed instantly. "No, I can't let that happen." She bit her lip anxiously. "What if another woman steals him?" I shrugged. "Then be the girlfriend he can rely on. Don't argue. Don't complain. Stand beside him. Men appreciate loyal women." She nodded repeatedly. "You're right. I need to be more understanding. I can't let anyone take my place as the future Mrs. Song." Without another word, she hurried upstairs. Moments later, I heard her bedroom door close. Then came the muffled sound of laughter. She was apologizing to Song Zihao over the phone. I slowly returned to my textbook. A quiet sigh escaped my lips. Some people couldn't be saved. Not because help wasn't offered, but because they refused to see the cliff until they had already stepped over its edge, and Jiang Nianru was already falling. Time passed quietly. The countdown to the college entrance examination grew shorter with each passing day. Inside our home, however, the atmosphere became increasingly tense. Not because of the exams, but because of something no one had expected. One Sunday morning, the sound of violent retching echoed from the bathroom. I paused halfway through breakfast. A few moments later, my mother helped Jiang Nianru out of the bathroom. Nianru's face was pale. She looked exhausted, one hand covering her mouth while the other rested protectively against her stomach. My mother's expression was equally strange. Her face had drained of color, yet her eyes sparkled with excitement. She hurriedly closed the bathroom door before lowering her voice. "You're pregnant?" She stared at her daughter in disbelief. Then, to my astonishment, she smiled. Not the smile of a worried mother, not the smile of someone concerned for her 18-year-old daughter's future. It was the smile of someone who had just discovered a winning lottery ticket. "Wonderful. This is wonderful." She clasped Jiang Nianru's hands tightly. "My clever girl. This child is our greatest bargaining chip. Now the Song family won't have any choice. They'll have to let you marry into their family. They can't escape anymore." I nearly choked on my porridge. The first thought that crossed my mother's mind wasn't her daughter's health. She didn't worry about complications. She didn't worry about Nianru's education. She certainly didn't worry about her future. All she saw was leverage. A baby that could force the Song family into marriage. Jiang Nianru had initially looked terrified. She was only 18, barely an adult. But after hearing mother's words, the fear slowly disappeared from her face. She lowered her gaze toward her still flat stomach. A triumphant smile spread across her lips. "That's right. I'm carrying the Song family's child. Let's see if Song Zihao still dares to yell at me." She looked toward me smugly. "Sister, I bet you're jealous. You keep studying all day. After graduation, you'll probably become an ordinary office worker. When I become Mrs. Song, I'll ask my husband to give you a job." Her tone was filled with pity, as though she were already standing far above me. I calmly set my bowl down. A gentle smile appeared on my face. "Congratulations. You've accomplished 2 major milestones before turning 19. You've finished high school and you're about to become a mother." That's quite impressive. I sincerely hope everything goes smoothly. I hope you give birth to a healthy baby. So the Song family will be pleased. My mother shot me a sharp glare. "What kind of attitude is that? It sounds like you're cursing your sister." She turned back to Jiang Nianru. "Listen carefully. Don't tell anyone about the pregnancy. We'll wait until your belly starts showing. Then we'll visit the Song family. They'll have no choice but to take responsibility." Finally, she looked at me again. "And you focus on your exams. If you don't get into Peking University, don't come crying to me." I simply nodded. She still didn't realize I had never intended to rely on her, not in this lifetime, not ever again. The day of the National College entrance examination finally arrived. The summer heat blanketed the city like a heavy quilt. Outside every testing center, thousands of anxious parents waited beneath colorful umbrellas. Students walked silently through the gates, each carrying years of hopes and expectations. As I entered the examination room, my heart was astonishingly calm. I had prepared for this day twice, once in my previous life, and once again after being reborn. Every formula, every historical event, every essay topic, every mathematical theorem, I knew them by heart. When the exam papers were distributed, I glanced over the questions. A faint smile tugged at my lips. Everything was exactly as I had anticipated. My pen glided effortlessly across the pages. The answers flowed naturally, one after another. Hours passed in complete concentration. When I finally handed in my paper, I walked out of the classroom feeling lighter than I had in years. For the first time, I could truly see the future waiting for me. Jang Yanru never entered the examination hall. Morning sickness had become unbearable. She remained at home while my mother cared for her like royalty. Whenever relatives asked why she wasn't taking the exam, mother dismissed the question with a wave of her hand. What does she need a university degree for? She's getting married soon, anyways. Her priority is protecting the baby. Ivy, that's far more important than some meaningless exam. Just like that. Years of education ended without hesitation. Not because fate forced her, because she willingly abandoned it. When the examinations ended, I already knew the outcome. I had done everything I possibly could. The rest would be decided by fate. Meanwhile, my mother wasted no time. Only a few days after the exams, she took Jang Yanru straight to the Song family's luxurious villa. I didn't go with them. Instead, I stayed home quietly packing my belongings, preparing for the next chapter of my life. Later that evening, neighbors eagerly filled me in on everything that had happened. Apparently, the scene had been spectacular. My mother threw herself onto the ground outside the Song family's mansion, crying loudly enough for the entire neighborhood to hear. She accused Song Zihao of seducing her innocent daughter. She demanded justice. She demanded marriage. She demanded responsibility. The Song family, proud and obsessed with their public image, could hardly ignore the growing crowd gathering outside their gates. Eventually, they invited both women inside to negotiate. The discussion lasted for hours. By the time they emerged, a decision had been made. The wedding would take place the following month. Before Jang Yanru's pregnancy became impossible to hide, it wasn't a marriage born from love. It was a marriage arranged to protect appearances, and everyone involved knew it. Everyone, except Jiang Yanru herself. She still believed she had won. She had no idea. She was walking willingly into the most beautiful prison money could buy. A month later, two life-changing pieces of news arrived on the very same day. One was wrapped in bright red paper, the other in an expensive white wedding gown. That morning, a courier knocked on our front door. I took the envelope with trembling hands. The moment I saw the crimson seal stamped across the front, my heart skipped a beat. Peking University. I carefully opened it, my fingers shaking, despite all my efforts to stay calm. Inside lay the acceptance letter I had dreamed of. Twice. Congratulations. You have been admitted to Peking University. For several long seconds, I couldn't breathe. Every sleepless night, every practice exam, every sacrifice, every painful memory from my previous life, it had all led to this moment. I had done it. This time, my future belonged to me. Across the living room, laughter echoed through the house. Jang Nianru stood before a full-length mirror wearing a dazzling custom-made wedding gown. The dress sparkled beneath the sunlight. Thousands of tiny crystals shimmering like stars with every movement. Professional stylists surrounded her, adjusting her veil and smoothing the folds of the expensive fabric. She admired herself from every angle, unable to hide her satisfaction. When she noticed the acceptance letter in my hands, she curled her lips into a mocking smile. It's only a piece of paper, She shrugged dismissively. Why are you acting like you've won the lottery? She slowly twirled before the mirror. Look at this dress. It was custom made. There are nearly 1,000 Swarovski crystals sewn onto it. It probably costs more than you'll earn in your entire lifetime. She smiled proudly. So, who do you think is the real winner? I looked at her quietly. The gown was breathtaking, elegant, luxurious, perfect. But beneath the flawless makeup, I noticed the dark circles beneath her eyes, the fatigue she tried desperately to conceal, the faint anxiety hidden behind her confident smile. She looked like a princess marching willingly toward her execution. I smiled sincerely. You look beautiful. In fact, you're the most beautiful bride I've ever seen. Her smile widened. But, I continued softly, that dress is incredibly heavy. I hope you'll have the strength to carry its weight for the rest of your life. For a brief moment, silence filled the room. Then my mother's angry voice shattered it. What nonsense are you talking about? She stormed toward me. Your sister is about to become the young mistress of the Song family. She's going to spend the rest of her life enjoying luxury. What burden could she possibly have? She glanced at the acceptance letter in my hands with open disdain. Put that useless thing away. Come over here and help fix your sister's dress. As the older sister, the least you can do is be supportive. I lowered my eyes. Without saying another word, I walked over and gently lifted the long train of Jiang Nianru's gown. Outwardly, I appeared obedient. Inside, I was counting down the days. Our departures were scheduled for the same morning. Jiang Nianru would become Mrs. Song. I would leave for Beijing. Two sisters, two roads, two completely different destinies. On the day of the wedding, the city buzzed with excitement. The ceremony was held at the most luxurious five-star hotel in town. Rows of exotic sports cars lined the entrance. Guests, dressed in designer suits and elegant evening gowns, filled the grand ballroom. Crystal chandeliers illuminated the hall with warm golden light. Everything looked like a fairy tale. Relatives couldn't stop praising Jiang Nianru. What incredible luck! She married into one of the richest families in the province. The Song family truly chose well. My mother floated from table to table like a queen. She accepted every compliment with obvious pride. Occasionally, she would pull me toward another group of guests. This is my eldest daughter. She got into a prestigious university too. But honestly, she laughed. What's the point of studying so much? In the end, a woman still needs a husband like young Master Song. Everyone laughed politely. I smiled, said nothing. There was no point arguing with people who measured a woman's worth by the size of her husband's fortune. As the banquet continued, I quietly observed the groom. Song Zihao looked handsome in his tailored tuxedo, but something felt off. His smile never reached his eyes. Throughout the ceremony, he kept glancing impatiently at his phone. Even while exchanging rings, he barely looked at his bride. He certainly never held her hand, unless the photographer instructed him to. It was obvious. His heart wasn't here. Later, while passing one of the VIP tables, I overheard several of his wealthy friends talking among themselves. What bad luck! One of them laughed into his wine glass. He got trapped. Another smirked. Don't worry. Marriage is just a formality. He'll still have plenty of women outside. You really think Song Zihao is the faithful type? The table erupted in laughter. That girl? She's nothing more than decoration, a beautiful vase sitting in the Song family's mansion. I silently took a sip of red wine. The bitter taste lingered on my tongue. To everyone else, this was the happiest day of Jiang Nianru's life. To me, it was the beginning of her downfall and the first day of my freedom. Late that night, while the wedding celebration continued, I quietly left the hotel with a single suitcase. No dramatic farewell, no tears, no hesitation. I boarded the overnight train bound for Beijing. As the train slowly pulled away from the station, I rested my forehead against the window. The city faded into the darkness behind me. The place that had imprisoned me for 2 lifetimes was finally disappearing. I closed my eyes, breathing in deeply. Goodbye to the pain, to the betrayal, to the family that never loved me. My life finally begins today. Yet deep inside, a strange feeling lingered as though fate hadn't finished with us yet. Beijing welcomed me with crisp autumn air and endless possibilities. The towering skyline stretched toward the clouds, while streams of students hurried across the sprawling campus of Peking University, each carrying dreams as ambitious as my own. As I stood beneath the university gate with a suitcase in one hand and my admission letter in the other, an unfamiliar emotion welled up inside me. Freedom. For the first time in 2 lifetimes, I belonged to no one. No manipulative mother, no jealous sister, no toxic household that drained every ounce of hope from my heart. Only me. And the future I intended to build. University life was everything I had imagined, and more. Every morning, the campus came alive with energy. Students rushed between lecture halls carrying stacks of books. Professors passionately debated ideas that could change the world. Libraries remained crowded until midnight. Unlike my hometown, no one cared about your family background here. Only one thing mattered: your ability. It was the perfect place to start over. I buried myself in my studies. The library quickly became my second home. Day after day, I immersed myself in textbooks, research papers, and programming manuals. Sometimes I stayed until the security guards reminded everyone the building was closing. I didn't mind. Knowledge had saved me once. This time, it would help me conquer the future. Thanks to the memories from my previous life, I also knew which industries were about to explode over the next decade. Artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, cloud computing, digital finance. Whenever I earned money from scholarships or part-time tutoring, I invested every spare yuan paidly, carefully. Unlike most freshmen, I wasn't chasing luxury. I was building capital. Within a year, my investments had already doubled. Not enough to make me rich, but enough to make me financially independent. For the first time in either lifetime, I never had to ask my family for a single cent. That alone felt like victory. It was during my second semester that I met someone who would eventually change my life. His name was Lu Jing. Everyone on campus knew who he was. He was 2 years ahead of me, a computer science prodigy, winner of countless international programming competitions, founder of several successful student startups. Even professors spoke highly of him. Despite his reputation, he rarely socialized. He was quiet, reserved, almost impossible to approach. Some students even called him the Ice Prince. Our first meeting happened by pure coincidence. One rainy evening, I sat alone in the engineering library. struggling with an algorithm that refused to cooperate. For nearly a week, I had rewritten the same program dozens of times. Every solution produced another error. Frustration slowly crept into my thoughts. I rubbed my temples and sighed. Just then, a shadow fell across my desk. Someone stopped beside me. Without introducing himself, the young man glanced briefly at my laptop screen. He remained silent for only a few seconds. Then he picked up the pencil lying beside my notebook. Tap. He gently pointed toward one line of code. "Your logic is correct." His deep, calm voice broke the silence. "But your variable dependency is wrong. If you reverse these two conditions, the recursion will terminate naturally." He placed the pencil back onto my desk, then turned to leave. I stared after him, curious, skeptical. Out of instinct, I changed the code exactly as he suggested. I pressed enter. For the first time in 7 days, the program compiled perfectly. No errors, no warnings. It simply worked. I looked up in surprise. The mysterious senior was already halfway across the library. "Excuse me." He stopped, slowly turning around. "Thank you." A faint smile appeared at the corner of his lips. It wasn't difficult. Then he walked away. That was all. No dramatic conversation. No exchange of phone numbers, no awkward flirting, just a brief encounter between two strangers. Yet somehow, I had a feeling it wouldn't be our last. Over the following months, we crossed paths again and again, sometimes in the library, sometimes at academic seminars, occasionally during research meetings. Little by little, our conversations grew longer. We discussed algorithms, business trends, artificial intelligence, global economics. For the first time in years, I met someone who challenged me intellectually, someone who understood my ambitions without explanation, unlike Song Zihao, who relied on family wealth and empty arrogance. Lu Jing had earned everything through talent. He never boasted, never sought attention. The more I learned about him, the more I realized there was something unusual beneath his quiet personality. His understanding of international markets was astonishing. He knew influential investors by name. Executives from major technology companies greeted him like an old acquaintance. Occasionally, expensive luxury cars arrived on campus to pick him up. He always dismissed them casually, as though such things meant nothing. I never asked about his family. He never volunteered the information. Still, I could tell. Lu Jing's background was far more powerful than he allowed others to see. Meanwhile, the peaceful life I had built in Beijing was occasionally interrupted by phone calls from home. Whenever I turned my phone back on after weeks of silence, dozens of missed calls would appear. Almost all of them from my mother. Reluctantly, I answered one evening. The moment she heard my voice, she burst into tears. "Suyu, your sister has suffered so much." I remained silent. Mother continued speaking between sobs. After marrying into the Song family, Jiang Nianru's life had changed completely. Not for the better. She had lost the baby after Song Zihao beat her during one of his drunken rages. The Song family paid a small amount of money for medical expenses. Nothing more, Song Zihao barely returned home anymore. Instead, rumors spread that he was vacationing overseas with a famous fashion model. Without the child, Jiang Nianru had lost her only leverage. Her parents-in-law no longer treated her kindly. They criticized everything: her education, her manners, her appearance, her inability to contribute to the family business. The future young mistress had become nothing more than an unwanted burden. Mother cried louder. You have to help your sister. Your family. Send some money. She needs nutritional supplements. I closed my eyes. A long silence followed. In my previous life, who had helped me? Who had protected me? Who had mourned my death? No one. Eventually, I transferred a modest amount of money, not out of love, not out of forgiveness, simply because I wished to fulfill the final obligation of being a daughter. Nothing more. When the transfer was complete, I returned my attention to the research paper lying on my desk. Outside my dormitory window, the lights of Beijing shimmered like countless stars. My future was waiting, and I had no intention of looking back. 2 years slipped by in the blink of an eye. By then, I had become one of Peking University's top students. My research had been published in several academic journals, and I had earned a full scholarship to participate in an exchange program in Europe. Professors who had once known me only as a hardworking freshman now treated me as a promising young researcher. Life was finally moving in the direction I had always dreamed of. Meanwhile, news from my hometown continued to reach me through my mother's occasional phone calls. According to her, Jiang Nianru had become pregnant again. This time, she successfully gave birth to a baby boy. The entire Song family celebrated as though an heir to a kingdom had been born. Fireworks lit up the night sky. Lavish banquets lasted for days. Luxury gifts poured into the Song residence from business partners, eager to strengthen their relationship with the family. My mother couldn't stop bragging. Our family's future is secure now. My grandson is the eldest grandson of the Song family. With this child, Nianru's position is untouchable. She spoke with such confidence that anyone listening would have believed every problem had been solved. I simply smiled. If only she knew the truth. A child could not change a man's nature. Song Zihao was still the same selfish, violent, and arrogant person he had always been. Marriage hadn't changed him. Fatherhood wouldn't either. That summer, just before my third year of university began, my mother gave me an ultimatum. If you don't come home for your nephew's first birthday party, she snapped over the phone, I'll go to Beijing myself and make a scene at your university. I sighed. Creating trouble in front of my professors was exactly the sort of thing she would do. Reluctantly, I booked a flight home. The celebration was held at the Song family's sprawling estate. Luxury cars filled the enormous driveway. Crystal chandeliers illuminated every corner of the mansion. Professional photographers moved through the crowd, capturing every smile, every toast, every carefully staged moment of happiness. From the outside, it looked like the perfect family. But appearances had always been the Song family's greatest weapon. The moment I stepped inside, I sensed something was wrong. The air itself felt heavy. Forced smiles, laughter. Conversations that ended the instant someone important walked by. Everyone seemed to be pretending. Jiang Nianru sat at the center of the banquet hall, holding her son. Gold bracelets covered both wrists. A diamond necklace glittered around her neck. Designer clothes draped elegantly over her figure. She looked every inch the wealthy young mistress she had always dreamed of becoming. Yet no amount of jewelry could hide the truth. She had grown painfully thin, dark circles surrounded her eyes. Her once radiant smile now appeared stiff and rehearsed. Even her makeup couldn't conceal the exhaustion etched across her face. The moment she saw me, something flickered in her eyes. Jealousy, pure, unmistakable jealousy. Instead of greeting me, she deliberately raised her voice so the women sitting nearby could hear. That's my older sister. She studies all day, still single. She laughed lightly. I suppose educated women are just too picky, or maybe men don't like women who spend all their time reading books. Several guests chuckled politely. I ignored them completely. Instead, I walked over to greet Song Zihao's parents with quiet courtesy before finding a seat near the back of the hall. Some battles weren't worth fighting. Across the room, I finally saw Song Zihao. For a moment, I barely recognized him. His once handsome face had become swollen from years of drinking. His expensive, tailored suit could no longer hide the weight he had gained. Dark shadows rested beneath bloodshot eyes. He looked less like a successful businessman, and more like someone constantly running from his own demons. Throughout the party, his gaze wandered shamelessly around the room. Young women, waitresses, guests' daughters. Anyone attractive became the target of his lingering stare. Not once did he look at his wife. As I observed him, another detail caught my attention. The baby, little Song. He was chubby and healthy on the surface, yet something felt off. His eyes rarely focused. His reactions seemed unusually slow. When other children his age laughed or reached toward colorful objects, he remained strangely expressionless. No one else appeared to notice. Or perhaps they simply refused to. A hand suddenly grabbed my arm. It was my mother. She pulled me toward a quiet corner of the garden. Lowering her voice, she spoke urgently. Suyu, you've always been smart. Think of something. I looked at her calmly. What happened? She glanced nervously toward the ballroom. Song Zihao has another woman. He barely comes home anymore. Your sister cries every night. You have to help her. You've read so many books. Surely you know how to make a husband stay faithful. I couldn't help letting out a quiet laugh. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was disbelief. Years ago, when I warned Zhang Nianru not to choose this path, neither of them had listened. Now, they expected me to repair the very life they had insisted on creating. I met my mother's pleading gaze. Mom, a person's character doesn't change. You want me to do what? Teach him loyalty? Help her keep a man who never loved her? This marriage was her choice. She has to face the consequences herself. Her face darkened instantly. So you're refusing? I'm refusing to interfere. She raised her hand as if to slap me, then remembered where we were. Hundreds of influential guests surrounded us. Slowly, she lowered her hand again. Her voice trembled with anger. You're heartless. One day, you'll receive your punishment too. I simply nodded. Perhaps. But somehow, I doubted karma was looking in my direction. As evening fell, the banquet reached its peak. Champagne flowed freely. Music echoed through the ballroom. Laughter filled the air. Then, everything collapsed. Song Zihao, already drunk beyond reason, staggered toward one of the young waitresses carrying a tray of wine. Without warning, he wrapped an arm around her waist. The girl froze in shock. Come, he slurred. Drink with me. I'll double your salary. She tried desperately to pull away. At that exact moment, Jiang Jianru rushed forward. Zihao, what are you doing? Everyone's watching. She reached for his arm. Instead of letting go, he turned, his expression twisted with drunken fury. Then, slap! Asterisk. The sound echoed through the grand ballroom. Jiang Nianru stumbled backward, crashing onto the polished marble floor. The entire room fell silent. No one moved. No one dared. Song Zihao pointed a trembling finger at his wife. You useless woman! I work day and night, and you dare lecture me? If you don't like it, get out! The music stopped. Champagne glasses froze in mid-air. Every guest watched in stunned silence as the fairy tale finally shattered before their eyes. And deep inside, I knew this was only the beginning. 3 years passed. The little tech startup Lu Jing and I had founded in a cramped office no bigger than a classroom had grown into one of Beijing's fastest rising artificial intelligence companies. What began with 4 engineers, second-hand computers, and instant noodles for dinner had evolved into a business attracting the attention of major investors across the country. The media called us the next generation of innovators. Investors competed for meetings. International companies offered partnerships. For the first time in either of my lives, success belonged to me because I had earned it, not because of luck, not because of marriage, but because of years of relentless work. One rainy afternoon, Lu Jing walked into my office carrying a thick folder. His normally calm expression had turned unusually serious. We have a problem. I looked up from my laptop. What happened? He placed the folder on my desk. Our finance team noticed something strange. He opened several documents. The Song Group. They've been trying to acquire smaller software companies. On paper, they're investing. In reality, he paused. The numbers don't add up. I frowned. What do you mean? Lu Jing slid several financial statements toward me. Money is moving through dozens of shell companies. Asabi's millions disappear, then reappear overseas. The transactions have no legitimate business purpose. I studied the documents carefully. Every instinct told me he was right. This wasn't ordinary accounting. Someone was laundering money. The name at the bottom of every report was painfully familiar. Song Zihao. For years, he had lived beyond his family's actual wealth, luxury cars, private jets, extravagant parties. The Song Group's profits had been declining, yet their spending kept increasing. It had never made sense. Now, everything finally did. Their empire wasn't built on success anymore. It was being held together by fraud. We should stay away from this, I said quietly. Lu Jing nodded. I agree. But there's one problem. He handed me another document. Our company unknowingly signed a subcontract with one of their shell corporations last year. My heart skipped a beat. If the authorities investigate, we'll be questioned too? Exactly. Silence settled between us. Neither of us had done anything illegal. But being connected, even unknowingly, to a criminal network could destroy everything we had built. There was only one option. We reported ourselves. Lu Jing looked at me. Are you sure? If we expose this, the Song family will know who started it. I didn't hesitate. They already consider me an enemy. I have nothing left to lose. Within days, our legal team contacted financial regulators. Every document, every suspicious transaction, every invoice, every bank transfer, everything was handed over voluntarily. The investigators moved faster than anyone expected. Apparently, the Song Group had already been under quiet surveillance for months. Our evidence filled in the missing pieces. News broke 2 weeks later. Authorities launch investigation into song group financial crimes. Television stations interrupted regular programming. Business newspapers ran special editions. Stock prices collapsed overnight. Investors rushed to sell their shares. Banks froze several corporate accounts. The once mighty song group began crumbling like a house of cards. Back in my hometown, panic spread through the song mansion. According to local reporters, police officers arrived early one morning with search warrants. Boxes of financial records were carried out. Computers were confiscated. Luxury watches, cash, foreign bank documents, everything was seized as evidence. Employees who had once proudly worked for the Song family quietly resigned. Business partners suddenly claimed they barely knew them. Friends disappeared overnight. Money attracted people. Failure revealed who they truly were. Then came the biggest headline of all. Song Zihao arrested. He was taken away in handcuffs while dozens of cameras recorded every second. The arrogant young master, who had once believed himself untouchable, lowered his head, shielding his face from the flashing lights. The image spread across every news channel in the country. That evening, my phone rang. The caller ID showed a familiar name, Jiang Nianru. I stared at the screen for several seconds before answering. The moment she heard my voice, she exploded. "You did this!" Her voice was hoarse from crying. "I know it was you. You've always hated me. You wanted to destroy my family." I remained calm. "No, I didn't destroy your family. They destroyed themselves." "Liar! If you hadn't reported the song group, Zihao would never have been arrested." I closed my eyes. Even now, she still refused to face reality. The investigation started long before I became involved. If they had done nothing wrong, no amount of evidence could have hurt them. She fell silent for just a moment. I thought she finally understood. Then she whispered something that sent a chill through me. "If my life is ruined, I'll make sure yours is too." The line went dead. That night, Lu Jing found me standing alone outside the office, staring at the city lights. "You think she'll do something?" he asked. I nodded slowly. I've seen that look before. It never ends with words. Lu Jing stood beside me. "You won't face it alone this time." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The cold wind swept through the streets below. Far away, the lights of Beijing continued to shine. But somewhere else, a woman who had already lost everything was preparing for one final act of desperation, and I knew the battle between the two sisters had not ended. It was only entering its final chapter. The threat Jiang Nianru made over the phone lingered in my mind. I knew her too well. She had never been someone who accepted defeat gracefully. If she couldn't climb back to the top, she would drag someone else down with her. And in her eyes, that person had always been me. A week later, the internet exploded with scandal. Anonymous posts appeared across every major social media platform. Famous female tech CEO stole her sister's wealthy husband. Successful entrepreneur rose to the top through unethical means. The hidden face of Beijing's young business elite. The articles were filled with fabricated screenshots, edited photographs, and anonymous witnesses. According to the rumors, I had secretly seduced Song Zihao years earlier. When he rejected me, I supposedly spent years plotting revenge against both him and my own sister. The lies spread quickly. Reporters gathered outside our company. Investors began asking questions. Employees grew anxious. Within 48 hours, our company's stock dropped nearly 15%. My assistant rushed into my office, visibly shaken. The media won't stop calling. Several clients are asking whether the accusations are true. I calmly closed the file I had been reading, cancel today's meetings, and ask our legal department to prepare a statement. She hesitated. Shouldn't we deny everything immediately? I shook my head. No. If we react emotionally, we're playing their game. The truth doesn't need panic. That evening, Lu Jing walked into my office carrying a tablet. He looked unusually calm. I found something. He placed the device in front of me. Our cybersecurity team traced the original uploads. A map appeared on the screen. Every fake account, every anonymous post, every edited video led back to the same source, an internet cafe in our hometown. The security cameras had captured one familiar face, Jiang Nianru. I stared silently at the footage. She wore sunglasses and a baseball cap, but there was no mistaking her. Even after everything, she still believed destroying me would somehow save herself. The next morning, our legal team filed a lawsuit for defamation. At the same time, police investigators, already working on the Song Group case, obtained a warrant to seize the computers used to spread the false information. The evidence was overwhelming. Not only had Jiang Nianru orchestrated the smear campaign, she had also attempted to destroy financial records connected to Song Zihao's criminal investigation. She had crossed the line from desperate to criminal. 3 days later, I received another phone call. This time, it wasn't from my mother. It was from the police. Jiang, we believe your sister would like to see you. She's agreed to cooperate, but she refuses to speak unless you're present. For several seconds, I said nothing. Finally, I'll come. The detention center was cold and silent. The heavy steel doors echoed shut behind me. An officer escorted me into a small interview room separated by thick, reinforced glass. Jiang Nianru was already sitting inside. For a moment, I barely recognized her. The elegant woman who had once worn designer gowns and diamond jewelry was gone. Her hair was unkempt dark circles surrounded swollen eyes. She had lost so much weight that the prison uniform hung loosely from her shoulders. She looked broken. When she saw me, she forced a weak smile. So, you really won. I sat down across from her. This was never a competition. She laughed bitterly. It always was. You were smarter. Teachers loved you. You got into Peking University. You built a successful company. And me, I spent my whole life trying to prove I could have more. She lowered her head. I thought money would make me happy. I thought marrying into the Song family meant I'd finally beat you. Tears slowly rolled down her cheeks. But all I did was destroy myself. For the first time since my rebirth, I didn't feel anger. I didn't feel satisfaction, only sadness. Not because I pitied the woman she had become, but because I remembered the little girl she once was. We had shared the same room, the same birthday, the same dreams. Somewhere along the way, jealousy had consumed everything that remained of her heart. She looked up again. I have one question. I nodded. Go ahead. If you had stopped me again, like you did in our previous life, would things have been different? I thought carefully before answering. Maybe you might have gone to university. You might have found someone who truly loved you. You might have built your own career. I paused. But eventually, you still would have faced the same choice. What choice? I met her eyes. Whether to blame others or take responsibility for your own life. Silence filled the room. She closed her eyes. A single tear slid down her cheek. You were right. I was wrong. Those 4 words were the apology I had waited 2 lifetimes to hear. As I stood to leave, Jiang Yanru spoke one final time. Sister. I stopped. I'm sorry. No excuses, no accusations, no jealousy. Just, I'm sorry. I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I gave her a quiet nod. Then I walked away. The steel door closed behind me with a heavy metallic thud. That sound marked the end of everything that had tied us together. Not hatred, not revenge, just the end. Several months later, the court delivered its verdict. Song Zihao was convicted of financial fraud, money laundering, tax evasion, and multiple counts of corporate corruption. He received a lengthy prison sentence. Several senior executives of the Song Group were convicted alongside him. The once powerful business empire was liquidated to repay creditors. Everything the family had spent decades building disappeared within a single year. Jiang Yanru received a lighter sentence for destroying evidence and organizing the online defamation campaign after cooperating with investigators. My mother lost the mansion she had once proudly shown off to every neighbor. The luxury cars were auctioned. The jewelry disappeared. The family fortune was gone. She was left with nothing except regret, standing outside the courthouse after the verdict. I looked up at the clear blue sky. For years, I had believed revenge would bring peace. But now I understood something different. Justice had been served, not because I sought vengeance, but because everyone had eventually faced the consequences of their own choices. I took a slow breath, then turned away from the courthouse. There was only one chapter left to write. My future. 5 years later, the skyline of Beijing looked different. New towers had risen above the city. Technology had transformed the way people lived. And so had I. Standing before the floor-to-ceiling windows of our headquarters, I watched the morning sun bathe the city in golden light. Below, thousands of employees hurried into the glass building that now bore our company's name. The small startup Lu Jing and I had once built with borrowed desks and sleepless nights had become one of Asia's leading artificial intelligence companies. Every success had been earned, every achievement had been built step by step, no shortcuts, no wealthy husband, no family fortune. Only hard work. A gentle knock came from my office door. Lu Jing stepped inside, carrying 2 cups of coffee. He smiled, just as calmly as he had the day we first met in the university library. The board meeting starts in 30 minutes. I know. He placed a cup beside me. But before that, he reached into his jacket pocket. My heart skipped a beat. A small velvet box appeared in his hand. He opened it slowly. Inside rested a simple diamond ring. Not enormous, not extravagant, just elegant, just like him. I've spent years building a company with you, he said softly. I'd like to spend the rest of my life building a family with you too. For a moment, I couldn't find the words. After everything I had lived through, after betrayal, death, rebirth, and years of struggle, I had forgotten what genuine happiness felt like. Tears blurred my vision. This time, They weren't tears of pain, they were tears of peace. I smiled. Yes, I'd love to. 6 months later, we were married. The ceremony wasn't held in a luxury hotel. There were no television cameras, no extravagant displays of wealth. Only family, closest friends, former classmates, and the colleagues who had walked beside us from the very beginning. The wedding was simple, warm, filled with laughter instead of appearances. As we exchanged our vows, I looked into Lu Jing's eyes and realized something I had never understood in my previous life. Real love never needed to be displayed. It was found in respect, trust, and standing beside each other through every storm. A few weeks after our honeymoon, I returned to my hometown for the first time in years. The city had changed very little. The old streets, the familiar buildings, even the tiny noodle shop near my former school was still there, yet everything felt strangely distant, as though it belonged to someone else's memories. I stopped outside the cemetery carrying a bouquet of white lilies. Not for my parents, not for the Song family, but for the version of myself who had died beneath that speeding truck years ago. I placed the flowers gently before the memorial, then whispered, "You can finally rest." I kept my promise. I lived. Before leaving town, curiosity led me past the old Song mansion. It no longer resembled the luxurious estate that had once dazzled the entire city. The gates were covered in rust. The gardens were overgrown with weeds. The property had been abandoned after the bankruptcy and was scheduled for demolition. Nothing remained of the empire that had once seemed invincible. Money, power, ... In the end, they had all vanished. As for Jing Nianru, I never saw her again. After serving her sentence, she quietly moved to another province under a different name. I heard she found work in a small factory. No luxury, no designer clothes, no wealthy husband, just an ordinary life. Perhaps that was the punishment she needed most, to understand that happiness had never depended on marrying into wealth. It had always depended on the choices she made. My mother chose to remain in our hometown without money or influence. She finally experienced the ordinary life she had always looked down upon. Over the years, she wrote several letters asking for forgiveness. I paid for her basic living expenses, made sure she never went hungry. But our relationship never returned to what it once was. Some wounds heal, others simply become scars. One autumn afternoon, years later, Lu Jing and I walked hand in hand across the campus of Peking University. Students hurried past us, carrying books and laughing with friends. Watching them, I smiled. They remind me of us. Lu Jing laughed softly. You were much more serious, and you barely spoke. I was busy trying to survive. He squeezed my hand. You don't have to survive anymore. You can simply live. I leaned my head gently against his shoulder. For the first time, I truly believed him. As the sun slowly disappeared beyond the horizon, I looked back on the path that had brought me here. I had once believed that revenge would heal my broken heart. I was wrong. Revenge only opened the door. What truly changed my life was choosing myself, choosing education over shortcuts, choosing integrity over hatred, choosing love over bitterness. The greatest victory was never watching my enemies fall. It was building a life so full of purpose and happiness that they no longer occupied a single corner of my heart. And if there was one lesson my story could leave behind, it was this. Your past may shape you, but it does not define you. The choices you make today will always matter more than the pain you endured yesterday. Thank you for listening to this story on Chi Twisted Stories. If you enjoyed this journey of betrayal, redemption, and second chances, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us for the next twisted tale. Until next time, take care, and remember, karma never loses an address.